Hello, everyone. Welcome to our next comic book review. This episode, we're going to be reviewing the DC Rebirth comic.
It was amazing. It was almost perfect. Yeah, it's bringing in a lot of glowing reviews, and rightfully so. First off, without much surprise, wrote by Jeff Johns himself.
Yep.
This guy knows how to write a book, especially a DC book.
Yep.
And a little history. I'm a little more into DC than Rich is, and so sometimes I have to explain these things to him. But right, so DC has had like a problem of like the Infinite Crisis things. They'll collapse the entire universe and kind of rewrite people's histories, and then they kind of feel like that was a mistake and do a Superman boy prime reality punch and just magically change things because somebody punched reality that hard. Like a lot of goofy stuff happened, and they did it again. Flashpoint, the Flash's Flashpoint story, collapsed the universe, took away the multiverse. They reintroduced the multiverse, reintroduced the old multiverse. After that, they reintroduced the multiverse just by doing it. Then they reintroduced the old multiverse through a story called Convergence. It said Brainiac had a type of monster out there gobbling up old worlds and eating them up before they got destroyed. Just a lot of really weird continuity things. It had been frustrating a lot of DC guys, and I've told you this before. Things like that. I like when a character evolves, and like the Flash has one of the coolest evolutions. Because it started off as Jay Garrick, then it was Barry, then it was Wally, and like you got to see Wally as a kid, then as an adult, then as a part of the Justice League.
Yep. Like
there's this whole legacy there, frankly, I think it's weird that guys like Bruce has been Batman for 75 years, and Dick Grayson never rightfully took the mantle for a definite period of time. He's put it on before.
Sure.
But he didn't have it for 15, 20 years like Wally did.
Yeah.
I think that's weird, but so all of this stuff's been going on. It's been frustrating the fan base. And Jeff was like, well, I can probably fix a lot of that and bring a lot of that heart and legacy back without necessarily having to do another whole Infinite Crisis storyline. And he wrote DC Universe Rebirth, and it rode that edge as expertly as you could want, teasing some of the things that were missing, like most notably the Green Arrow and Black Canary relationship that hadn't even been mentioned when the New 52 started. The star of the book, Wally West, is back. Explaining what's happened to him. A lot of meta commentary on what's been going on with the DC universe for the last 20 years. It's every page is magical.
I love this comic. I did love this comic. It was really good. I've been reading DC comics since the 70s, so I don't have.
But I know you haven't followed it as much, the continuity as I have.
Yeah.
What sort of impact did that have on you with the story? Because a huge part that made me like this a lot was there was a lot of meta stuff going on there. Subtle, well slipped in. It wasn't bludgeoning you with the meta, but it was still there.
I thought it did a great job of explaining enough to understand what's going on here and why you're seeing it. You actually... It's not just a bunch of in jokes or something that nobody's going to get. It's explained enough that if you're a comic book person, you get it. You understand the significance of what you're seeing, and I think it's really good. I don't think there was really anything that I didn't get. There was a lot of new things. I wasn't aware that Green Arrow and Black Canary weren't together in the New 52s. I've really only followed Flash. I'm a big Flash guy.
Very reasonable.
I like the Flash, and the way that you talked about how the Flash has had over the course of the Flash's existence a very reasonable go forward, like the way that different people take on the mantle of the Flash,
and eventually they own that mantle too, right?
Yeah.
Like Wally, there's a huge segment that's their Flash because that's who they grew up with. Like that's not like just some joke. Like 15 years he fought villains, had his own villains.
Yeah,
like he got to define it for himself.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I like it a lot. I mean, that's like Flash makes a lot of sense, and so it sort of makes sense. Oh, I don't know if he makes sense, but he's a good story character, and to have so many of these comics be based around Flash, I think makes a lot of sense because the other characters a lot of times don't make sense. Well,
also, like it is again a part of the meta. Mm-hmm. Like a lot of people would say the 52 is where DC kind of really started to go off the rails because the changes were so seismic.
Yeah, sure.
And but that happened because of Flashpoint, which was the Flash.
Yep.
So, and I can't remember. Jeff might have even been the one who wrote Flashpoint. I honestly can't remember now. But at any rate, Jeff is smart and he knows that's where it started. Mm-hmm. So that's who's going to fix it.
Yeah.
Is the Flash.
Sure.
So that's part of the meta commentary as well, which is just really handled very well.
I don't know if I really like the tool of using the Flash as a phantom who's like wandering around and trying to get people's attention. I feel like that's a little bit weak.
Yeah.
It mentions that this was at least the second or third time that the Flash has been doing this. He's somehow trapped outside of...
Well, Barry's the one who's able to... I mean, as we're always doing these, we give away a bunch of spoilers, so you got to understand that when you listen to us. But Barry's the one who's able to pull Wally out of the Speed Force. And the first thing Barry says is, did I do this? Because usually when it's the time it's all screwed up, it's because Barry did something wrong. So exactly to your point, the first thing Barry asks, the very first thing, did I do this? He causes a lot of the problems.
Yeah.
Another part of Jeff's meta commentary is actually, and we'll review it next time, the Dark Side Wars.
Sure.
As they're building that story up with the Anti-Monitor, you have Mobius desperately begging with the Anti-Monitor that the universe can't withstand another crisis.
The little in reference.
Yeah. And so Jeff is trying to, these little seeds, Jeff is trying to get the editors away from that device. That big, right? Because you got to have these big events that drive a story and bring the whole universe together because that's like the summer blockbuster for these guys. And Jeff's like, well, it can't be an Infinite Crisis story anymore. We've done it 3 times.
Yep.
Can't be Flashpoint. We got to get away from this.
I don't know.
So we've been talking a lot of the meta stuff this book talks about.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the story itself.
Sure.
I loved it because it touches on each of the different universes a little bit. Mm-hmm. And Wally's got this commentary that something's been changed, something's been taken from us. And well, first off, in Flashpoint, he got sucked into the Speed Force. That was part of the story.
Yep.
And so, now we finally find out what's happened to him. And that he got sucked up in the Speed Force and he's been trying to get back. But everybody's a little different from the way they were before. Mm-hmm. And maybe because of that, his tie to the world isn't strong.
Yep.
And so you get to watch him visit character after character and kind of comment on what's happening and how you can reach out to them. But then it doesn't work.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
And it continues to not work until he finally reaches out to Barry. And that was just the way the artist is primarily Gary Frank.
Okay.
Ivan Reyes is in here too. Ivan's top tier. He worked on Aquaman. I'm pretty sure he did a 12-issue arc of Justice League.
Okay.
The Jeff Johns Justice League. Top tier artist. The pacing's fantastic. And I started to feel the stress Wally must have been feeling being trapped in the Speed Force the way he was. the way the panels are laid out,
Sure,
the way the characters being torn apart by the Speed Force.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it feels more desperate each time. It just feels like the way it's drawn, the way it's illustrated. He feels like, or I feel like he's giving up hope. And of course, at the very end, when he has just like, this is it, he doesn't even try. He doesn't even try to say like, hey, rescue me. Like,
no, he's accepted that he's gone.
Yeah.
And then of course, Barry, being the hero that he is, still saves the day. Awesome moment.
Yeah.
Especially if you're a Flash fan who understands the legacy of all these characters. It was awesome. And then right after that, we get in, like, it's amazing it says 80 pages. And like, that's actually all there is to the story, is Wally being sucked around the Speed Force trying to reach out to people.
Yeah.
And you'd think that'd be incredibly boring. That's like what I was saying about the other books. Pacing's important. With 80 pages, the artist has more than enough time to like spin a page and make you feel what Wally's feeling as he's getting torn apart.
It's not just 80 pages either, though. It is more panels, right? For an illustrator, it actually doesn't matter that much whether it's, a bigger panel or a smaller panel. The characters are actually smaller in this book because they are fitting that much more content.
More activity per page.
So instead of having to say everything, they can show a lot more.
And it really, I'm pretty sure this is one of Gary's. This doesn't necessarily look like Ivan's pencils, but like the faces the characters make, like that's more to what you're saying. Like they give time for the characters to express themselves.
Yeah.
So you can feel what they're feeling. And so, and to me, it's kind of weird. Like, give a synopsis. A huge part of the story is just a love letter to the DC fans and trying to gain their trust back. But the pacing is just so wonderful. And then we get, I don't know if you noticed, but do you know what's the big reveal at the end, which takes like 10 pages? But did you notice?
Yeah. So at this point, we've been doing spoilers. We always do spoilers. This is like mega spoilers, except everybody on the internet probably already knows.
Well, no, but I mean, I'm just like, once we get to the spoilery last 10 pages, did you notice what the artist did?
Everything's darker? Or
I forget the artist who worked on the original Watchmen story.
Okay.
But this is his panel layout.
Okay.
This was done with purpose to kind of start. It's kind of like if somebody was following up it's almost as if somebody was following up a Steven Spielberg movie.
Sure.
And want you to still feel like you're following his universe. Sure. Well, then you got to shoot it the way Steven does. You know what I'm saying?
It's been years since I read Watchmen, so.
Well, right, but I'm just saying like it's that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So for you to like subconsciously, subliminally, to let you know what you're seeing now, they start laying out the panels the way the artist did for Watchmen, and it's brilliant. The pacing's fantastic. It makes the reveal that much stronger, because this is exactly the way he did it. And then you get the comedian's button.
So
that means the Watchmen universe is like it exists right next to the DC universe.
What I had a little bit of a problem. So I love that they're going to combine it. I love that Dr. Manhattan is going to be, mixed in with all the DC stuff. I don't get why the button's there, other than for drama.
No, I think you got it. I think you nailed it right there on the head. Like that's so dramatic.
Like, how would he have the button?
Yeah, no, would he even drop the button there?
Yeah, and in the button, here's the thing. Like, imagine that somebody, either from the future or from a side dimension, specifically put the button there to send a message to Bruce. It's not a message to Bruce, it's a message to the reader. Because only the reader understands the significance of that button.
So that's incredibly fair. Because I'm so super stoked about this, because this does nothing but talk to me. And you're right, in continuity, if you look at it objectively, that's kind of goofy. It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense.
Like the next thing Bruce does is crumple it up and throw it away. Like it's like,
who put a button here?
It's like, this is dumb.
But yeah, no, the big spoiler is that it was Dr. Manhattan.
Yeah.
He did this when Flashpoint happened. It might have been a fan comic, but right at the end of Watchmen, he's Asmodeus is like, okay, well, you're going to leave. What are you going to do now? And he makes some comment about, well, maybe I'm going to experiment with life. Poof, and he disappears. Okay. Well, what was that life he was screwing around with? Apparently, during Flashpoint, right, when the whole universe was being remade, he reached out and just changed one thing. Took 10 years away from everybody. 10 years of stories, 10 years of life.
Yep.
And it changed everything.
What I want to know, I feel like it's going to be a struggle for them to be able to take this and make it make sense to people. Like that whatever Manhattan's doing, it's not just because he was bored. That he actually had a motivation, and is he unhappy that those 10 years are back?
That's the point of, that's what is so fantastic about the Dr. Manhattan's character, is that, like, right, when you talk about like cosmic horror and stuff, like you can't understand them.
Yeah.
We can't understand Manhattan anymore because he exists at that cosmic level.
Yeah.
It's almost like Galactus. Like right when he shows up to gobble up a planet.
Sure.
He's never angry. He's never mean. He's not attacking people. He's a force of nature. He's doing his purpose.
But he has a purpose. He has to have a purpose.
That's what I mean. He's doing his purpose. Galactus is. And but it was Dr. Manhattan's purpose.
Exactly. Are they going to be able to spin this in the end so that it just seems masterful? Like, oh my God, I can't believe how clever that is.
But when he left the Watchmen universe, like there was no purpose. He just, right? Again, Ozymandias was like, what are you going to do? And he just almost nonchalantly shrugging like, mess around with life, I guess.
I thought he was going to try creating life or whatever. If it turned out that there was another Earth, that he was like, well, what if we only populated Earth with heroes? And all the dead characters from the past 5 years were on this world, and he just kept taking them at that split second that they die and just replaces them with an artificial corpse. It could be interesting. I don't know. There could be lots of different things that he's doing, but if he's just like gone insane and he's just like, yep, minus 10 years here. He's just going to keep messing with things. And so they have to basically put an end to him. He's basically become the Beyonder from Marvel.
I think that's definitely dependent upon the writer. If Jeff is writing it, then I have faith.
Yeah.
Most other writers could go that route, which would be terrible. Jeff has said in like a tweet or whatever that, they are going to have to deal with Dr. Manhattan, what he's doing. Like,
sure.
The stories are going to lead to that. And it's not going to be them punching him in the face. Right? So it's not going to be like, because right, whenever they had to deal with the Beyonder or Thanos or all these other, right, they always solve the problem by punching them really hard.
No.
Yeah,
not
Thanos. The Anti-Monitor, they brought everybody to punch him.
In the Beyonder, they convince. So this is 20-year-old spoilers. They convince the Beyonder because they just can't stop him.
Yeah,
he is the power of an entire universe, so they can't ever stop him. And none of the Celestials, Eternia, none of the mega beings, Death, any of them.
By the way, it's funny how DC and Marvel like copy each other, because DC's got the Monitor.
Okay. Yeah.
Which monitors things. Like.
Oh, just like the Watcher?
Like the Beyonder or whatever. Is the guy you're talking about?
No. The Watcher
watches
things.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
The Monitor watches things like the Watcher does.
Yeah.
And then he's got the evil version, the Anti-Monitor. That's a problem. But it's just funny how the copies are so blatant.
They always do it, right? Like they always have done it. But the Beyonder, ultimately, they don't punch him in the face because they never can. And so what they do is they convince him that the reason why nothing makes sense to him is that he has never experienced true life. And so then he tries creating a body for himself, a la Jesus or something. But in the long run, he's just like, you know what? For me to understand this universe, I need to become a universe like this. So that moment is the Big Bang for him, because he's a universe. So he just goes back to his dimension, I guess, or whatever, and Big Bang, and he creates life, and then humanity. And it could be like our planet could be him.
World 617 or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they philosophize him into leaving. Because that's all they can do.
And if they do something smarter like that with Dr. Manhattan, eventually it could be really interesting. And frankly, by the time I read that, I will probably put DC down and be like, okay, I read the whole book.
Done. I kind of hope Santana just casts a spell and turns him into like something else that doesn't have physics changing superpowers.
That'd be lame. Just speak some words backwards and like, I stopped the universe altering monster.
Like Nat Anim Valzid for Dissolve Manhattan. Gone.
But yeah, so awesome book. DC did a great job of like talking to the fans, kind of apologizing for some of the goofy stuff they've been doing. Since then, they've been following up with a bunch of Rebirth #1s, which have been selling pretty good. And the new #1, Superman #1, Batman #1 are kicking off, I think, now. So hopefully they keep up the momentum and some great storytelling.
Do you need to... So I haven't read those other ones. Do you need to read this to understand those?
No. Those aren't about this. All the Rebirth stories really do. Batman Rebirth, Green Arrow Rebirth. All they're really doing is kind of like giving you a quick snapshot of what the new status quo is. So Green Arrow, you see his relationship with the Black Canary more, which you don't need this book to know about that. Yep. But like, okay, so when you go into Green Arrow 1, you know, like, oh, okay, he's got a relationship with Green Arrow. Batman's, the Superman Rebirth, right? Spoilers. The New 52 Superman died.
Yep.
In the pre-Flashpoint, Superman is back.
Yep.
And the Superman Rebirth 1 kind of like touches on what that is and what that means. So again, it's just like, so now when you pick up Superman 1, you kind of get what's going on.
So other than bringing Barry back.
Wally
back.
Well, Wally's already in the 52. Completely different character. So they brought back specifically pre-Flashpoint Wally.
So other than that, what else does this comic do that has any meaning for the...
it's just a great read.
Just a great read. Exactly. And it makes it almost standalone. It makes it almost just like something...
Which is good.
Yeah. You can just pick it up, read it, enjoy it for what it is. And it's not this thing that they're like, now you have to buy all these other ones to get the rest of the story. I mean, yeah, in order to know what's going on with Manhattan, at some point, 6 months, a year from now, who knows? I don't know when. Is he still... I
think some of the Teen Titans stories, which are going to... One of the Teen Titan books, which has Wally.
Okay.
At least the first one's going to kind of like touch on this a little bit. I don't know how far it's going to go. But no, you're right. Like, it's going to be a year or two before they kind of get back around to this plot thread and do something with
it. Which I like. Personally, I can appreciate that. And that's what made it a good read for me, because I'm not up to date on a lot of the other stories, but I enjoyed this, and I don't feel like we basically just saw slivers of a bunch of other stories. And that's definitely something that I've been irritated with a lot of the other DC volumes. I always feel like I'm only seeing a small portion of a larger story, and somehow he masterfully had all these characters without making me feel like I'm a loser for not reading those other comics. No, it just feels good.
I mean, I can go on for a while. I like Jeff a lot. He does his Aquaman run. Mm-hmm. Does the same thing. Like, first off, I didn't know I could like Aquaman. Aquaman's my boy now. Self-contained story, but universe built for Aquaman.
Yeah.
Some of the crew he runs with, Black Manta, you get their background story. And that was the first Aquaman. I didn't need to read what happened back in the 70s or the 40s when Aquaman started. Like I didn't need all that legacy. There was always just enough there for me to know what's happening. Same thing with the Justice League books. You didn't need to read Superman's or Batman's or Wonder Woman's books to understand those characters in the Justice League book. When Jeff was writing it, you always knew just enough to enjoy the story.
I think it's crucially important. Reward me for reading those other comics, definitely. But don't make me. Yeah. Black Manta, just a side note, was for whatever reason, as a kid, I loved Black Manta.
He is super tough in the Aquaman book. He was a villain. I was happy when I finally got to see Arthur take him on and beat the tar out of him. Because that guy was a jerk.
Yep.
He needed to go. You're going to like him in the book.
That's good. Yeah, apparently I have to start reading it. All right, everyone. Well, that is our review of DC Rebirth. And hopefully you'll join us next time as we're going to be going through the Dark Side War. And then after that, I think we'll be back to Volume 3 of the He-Man comic books. So, all right. Well, read on, everyone. And click like, click subscribe, and comment down below if you disagreed or if you're angry at all the spoilers we just spew out nonstop. So, all right. Bye, everyone.
Oh my goodness.
I have to show you
You're going to die. So the Las Vegas 51 baseball team is hosting a superhero night tonight in honor of my charity. It's a whole big thing. And I have to throw out the first pitch. And I am horrified and nervous. I cannot even tell you how stressed I am because not only is everyone expecting Wonder Woman to throw it out of the park, I'm nervous when I twist, I'm going to have like a wardrobe malfunction. And I'm going to be like an internet sensation, but it's going to kill my charity work.
So